All right, guys. So I am back. Let's see. But I'm being told. Okay, there we go. Let's get over to this guy. All right. So let's see if we are able to hear me. Can you guys hear me out there? If you are, this is a new stream that I'm doing. And I'm still seeing that you guys can't hear me. Okay. Well, this is Dr. Dwayne Wood, and I am not sure why we're having some technical issues. It looks like I am broadcasting, but I'm hoping that you guys are able to hear me. Tonight we're talking about food, and if you, all right, so I'm told that you guys can hear me now. Yay! I'm excited about that. Very good, very good. I'm not sure what was going on before, but I am back, and tonight we're talking about food and our love-hate relationship with food. That's what we're talking about. If you are here, if you can hear me here, tell those folks who may be waiting or not sure what's going on that we are here. Please be an apostle for me and get out there and spread the word on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, any of those places to let them know that we are back online. That's what happens when you go when you go live, right? But I'm glad that we were able to come back and glad that you're here. Hello, Dr. Charmaine is out there saying hello to us. Glad that you are here. Thank you for letting us know that that was a problem. And let me run over here to my other, let's see. All right. Okay. So I'm glad that I am back online, and I'm just trying to find myself over here to make sure that we are still broadcasting. There we go. All right, there we go. All right. So I can see myself on the screen over here now. All right, there we go. So anyway, so we're talking about food and our love-hate relationship with food. Now, if I went to the dictionary and I looked it up, and I actually did go to the dictionary and look it up, right? And let me read for you the dictionary's definition of food, right? The dictionary's definition of food. And here it is. So food is material consisting essentially of protein, carbohydrates, fats used in the body of an organism to sustain growth, repair vital processes, and furnish energy, right? So that's the definition of food per the dictionary. Now, how many of you know that is probably one of the lowest things on the list of what we use food for? Now, granted, right, we do feel hungry. We do eat food for nourishment. And there are a lot of people nowadays that have kind of changed their thought process, changed the way that they think about food, so that they are using food in many cases for nutrition, okay? But the vast number of people that live on the planet, and that's a lot of people, who are living in places that are industrialized, where there's ready access to food, a lot of times food has nothing to do with nutrition, right? And we have this kind of relationship with food where we love the food that we eat, but then we have these feelings that we shouldn't have eaten it, that we are sometimes even bad people, right? When we eat the food that we've eaten. And it's interesting because food has become this kind of catch-all for the things that we do. So we eat when we are excited. We eat when we are at weddings. We eat when we're at funerals. We eat when we're happy, when we're sad. We eat when we get pregnant. We eat when we find out the gender of the baby. We eat when we bless the baby. We eat when the baby is born. People come over to the house, right? So there are all these things that have been associated with eating. And what we are finding is that our relationship with food comes from a lot of different places. Number one, there's a physiologic relationship. that is what we just talked about. The actual eating of the food for nutrition, for building our body, for sustaining our body. There's that physiologic part of it, right? There is an emotional part of it. And the emotion has to do with some of the things that we just talked about, and we'll come back to those. But happy, sad, tired, frustrated, mad, all of those things are places where we use food to kind of fill the gap. And then we eat food because of memory. So you walk into a particular place and a smell comes to you, or a memory comes to you, or the smell triggers the memory, right? And the memory takes you back to when you were a child, or someplace that you've gone that you were happy, or someplace where you spent time with some significant people in your life. And then all of a sudden, not because you were hungry, but because you had that smell, then that memory came and said, oh, let me go have one of those things. Let me tell you a story. So I was living in Ohio, and I'll tell you that one of the most stressful times in my life was during the time when I was going through residency, right? Because we got up early, and for those of you who are out there who are physicians, who are in families with physicians, you may recognize this, or those of you who are in residencies right now, you recognize. So you got up early in the morning, and you went to the hospital, and you you went and you saw your patients, and you got everything right, so that when the attending comes, then you can present to the attending. But you had done all the work in terms of writing orders and seeing the patient, make sure the patient was good and that they were good overnight. And now we're getting ready to present to the attending, so you got, 10 patients that you've got to present, and you're presenting all these patients. So this is a teaching process, right? So in the teaching process, there is, in most places, it's a question, right? It's a question and answer kind of teaching. What that means is you present a patient, and the attending asks you a question about the patient, and you've got to answer, what is this disease process, right? Because you want your doctor to know, what's the disease process? How did it happen? How did the patient present? Do you know what the most common presentation, right? Now we've gone off of that patient, and now we're talking just in general. Do you know what the most common presenting symptom or sign for this type of disease is? Do you know what the treatment for this disease is? What is the prognosis of this disease? How many people in the country has this disease, right? So all those things are things that you are learning sometimes on the spot, right? In front of a crowd. And it's just very stressful. So anyway, so we're in Ohio, and one of my favorite things to eat, and I'm getting over, right? Yeah, see, I'm starting to have some flashbacks right now. Cherry Garcia ice cream, Ben & Jerry's. That's my thing. Okay, so I decided I was not going to have any Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and I had put on some weight. Okay, now we're losing weight, and I went for a long time, months, without eating Cherry Garcia ice cream. And I remember my wife sent me to the store, or I went to the store. I'm not sure what I was getting. And I was passing by, right? Those freezers that they put right there, right? So they don't hide them in the back. But right there's that freezer. And I'm walking by, and it says Cherry Garcia ice cream, buy one. That's right, get one free. And I almost lost my mind, right? Because I had been no Cherry Garcia for months and months, right? So I bought one. Well, I was going to buy one. But because I wanted to be a good consumer, I thought that would be bad. Just don't buy one, because the thing says buy one, get one free, right? So that wouldn't be good to waste my money. So I bought both of them. And so I'm driving on the highway now, heading home. And I remember, well, I can't take both of these home, right? So guys, guess what? That's right. I pulled over to the side of the road, and I ate both of the Cherry Garcia ice cream. Right? They weren't the gallon, but it's like the little pint things. The funny thing is, I don't remember having a spoon, so I don't even know what I used to eat it with. Right? So that is. If you're out there and you've ever had that experience, go ahead and put that in the chat, where you didn't want to eat something. You said you didn't want to eat something, but you ended up eating it anyway, right? Put that in the chat. So the question is, why do we have these relationships with food? And we've talked about where that comes from, right? So either it's a physiologic issue, so we're hungry. It's something that deals with emotions, or it's a memory that we had, right? That or either a smell, a sight, right, triggers something, and there's that memory. And so before we get into that discussion, there are a couple of things that we want to know, right? A couple of things that we want to talk about. Number one, we want to talk about cravings. And we want to talk about hunger. So hunger is the physiologic signal from your body that there's time, that it's time to put nutrition in there. There's the time to put stuff in there, right? So on the planet, humans are probably the only species that eats when it's not hungry, when we're not hungry, right? You've heard stories of, a lion who's just eaten, or some other animal that just eaten, and you're right there. And unless you bother the animal, it doesn't bother you because it's just eating. It's just eaten. It's just had a nutrition, right? So there's no reason for that animal to eat anything. But for us, oh yeah. For us, we're eating, right? So even if we are not hungry, we're eating. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm home and we've just finished eating, right? Had dinner and everything is good, blah, blah. Say a friend of mine comes by and says, hey man, I need to talk to you. Let's run over to somewhere. Let's pick, Panera Bread or one of those places. Starbucks. And we go to Starbucks, right? What do you think we're going to do? Yeah, I'm going to get something to drink and maybe get, one of those little muffins or whatever they have over at Starbucks. Yeah. So I'll get one of those and we'll sit there and we'll eat. But am I hungry? No, because I've just finished eating. So what is the reason that I'm eating? It's social, right? So we've become also conditioned to have a particular relationship with food. And food is maybe the most socially acceptable mechanism for dealing with a list of things. Hunger, tired, and you can go on and on and on and on and on and on in the list. So cravings, right? So cravings can actually happen for some physiologic reasons. Cravings can happen, for instance, in pregnancy. Now, those women who are pregnant are not people who may have been, just eaten off the wall before they got pregnant, but all of a sudden, the changes in their hormones are making them crave certain things, right? Some odd things. And really, the word craving, right, has been associated with pregnancy a lot. And sometimes, as the butt of a joke, right? Oh, she's got that craving for what? Sardines and bananas. Or peanut butter and whatever, right? So craving. So there's a hormonal component to it. There can be imbalances in the body. For instance, pica. People who have pica, they crave chalk or rice or dirt even, right? People who are iron deficient can have cravings. Now notice, right? Because we're going to come back and talk about this in a minute. That is a physiologic. That is something that the body is making them do. And it is a strong urge. You try to get between a pregnant woman and her sardines and you'll see how strong the urge is, right? So hunger. So other things can also cause, right, imbalances in hormones. For instance, leptin, right? Leptin is the satiety hormone. So the hormone that says you're full. So if there's a deficiency in leptin, then you're craving. And, as we've said on this channel before, the things that you're craving is not broccoli, right? It's not broccoli. You're craving those rich things, right, that are going to hit one of the centers that we're going to talk about here in a minute. All right. So those things can happen. So cravings can be selective or non-selective, right? So they can be specific food. I crave chocolate. I crave, food from a particular restaurant because I liked it. That's where I was. Remember that memory, right? So that's where we went as children. So I want food from that restaurant. Or that's where I met my husband. I want food from that restaurant. Or that's where we found out that my child was a boy or a girl. Okay, that's where my husband proposed. Right? That's the last place I went to dinner with my dad before he passed. All right, so I crave food from that specific place. Or I crave a particular food, right? We talked about the chocolate or a bag of chips, or some people say I only eat a particular brand of chips. I only eat a particular flavor of those chips. Right. So those are specific cravings. And then cravings can be non-specific. Right. So that I'm tired and I want to eat whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. And whatever's around, I'm going to eat it. Now, on my way home, there's a store as soon as I get off the highway. And often I could tell how my day has gone by if I stop at that store. Right? And so I've put some things in place, right, to help me deal with that issue, right? So that, if I sit in my car and I think I've mentioned my daily brain dump at the end of the day before I leave the office, right? If I do that and I do it well, so not just rush through it because I got to get out of there, right? So if I sit there and I go through and I do my daily brain dump, when I'm coming down, I don't stop at that store. But anyway, so those are general cravings, right? So we talked about pregnancy, we talked about pica, emotions, we talked about, here's one, as an endocrinologist, right? Low blood sugar, right? So when that blood sugar drops, either because we've taken too much insulin, too much medication, gone too long without eating, and the blood sugar begins to drop, that low blood sugar will cause a craving. And also insulin. Right? Insulin is a growth factor. So too much insulin, hyperinsulinemia. So whether it is due to insulin resistance or due to the fact that we are giving you exogenous insulin or a medication that forces your body to make insulin, then that insulin can also cause a craving. Right? So that's the first thing I want us to get. And then hunger is a danger, because if you are hungry, you have less control over what you eat. And when I say hungry, I'm talking about not okay, it's 12 o'clock. This is usually lunchtime. I'm hungry. But like, oh my God, I haven't eaten anything today, or I haven't eaten enough today. All right. And sometimes that is a detriment to people who are on a diet, right? Because they starve themselves. And in the process of starving themselves, sometimes they do more damage because now they're hungry. And when you can remember, right? When you go to eat, when you're hungry, you're not very controlled, right? You're like grabbing whatever's there, right? Because that's what's been going, that's what you need. Okay. So dopamine is the other thing I want to talk about. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter. I love dopamine because it comes from the adrenals, and one of the organs, or one of the, not organs, but one of the glands that I manage is the adrenal gland, right? So dopamine comes from the adrenal gland, and dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and dopamine is what people have termed the pleasure hormone. Oh, yeah. And this has been studied. A lot of it has been studied actually in addiction medicine, because dopamine is what is in the pleasure center. So when you're experiencing pleasure, or when you're anticipating pleasure, let me make that correction. So when you're anticipating pleasure, right, it is the dopamine that is causing that feeling that you have, that feeling of, oh my God, this is right. So I want you to think about it. So the anticipation of food, the anticipation of seeing a friend, the anticipation of doing a particular thing, the anticipation of filling out, of completing a project. Now notice, It doesn't always have to be food, right? But just the pleasure, the anticipation of the pleasure, right, causes that dopamine to surge. And the higher the anticipation, the higher the production of dopamine. Oh yeah, right? When you for real are anticipating something, oh, that dopamine is coming out. Right? So dopamine shoots out. And because we're anticipating. Think about the last thing that you anticipate. It could be food, right? Or it's their anniversary and we're going to go to that restaurant that you've wanted to go to. Or even that trip, right, that you've been planning. Oh, we're going to go on that trip. I've been wanting to go there for the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? I can think about what it's going to be like. We're going to take the airplane. We're going to land at the airport. We're going to take that little drive down that road that gets us onto the island. All right, we're going to get to the island and, there are not going to be a lot of people there, but just we're going to be in that bungalow, right? I don't know why I have that one in my head. Hey, maybe that's a trip that I need to take, right? But you're anticipating it, right? Your birthday, okay? Oh, this is going to be a good birthday because, this is one of the big ones. This is my 50th. This is my 60th birthday. This is my whatever birthday. I'm going to retire, right? So that anticipation, right? That's the dopamine coming out. Now, an interesting thing about dopamine is that you have probably had a situation where you anticipated something, right? And then you got the thing. And you're like, that wasn't what I really expected. I remember it one way, right? I remember seeing it one way in my head. I had it a certain way. It tasted a certain way, right? But it's not the reality when I ate it or I went there. And what do you think happens when we anticipate something? We got all that dopamine flooding, and then we get the thing and it doesn't meet the expectation. The dopamine begins going down. And what do we have to do to get that feeling again? Right? We've got to get something else that now raises the dopamine. And you can begin seeing that cycle, right? That is where addictions sometimes start, or that's the process of addictions, right? Because the anticipation, the dopamine came out, but now I've gotten, the thing that I got didn't meet the expectation, or I've gotten tolerant of it. My body's gotten used to it. So now I've got to get a bigger dopamine burst. Right? And we get into that cycle. So dopamine, that's a reward center. Okay. So let's talk also about food. About food. Did people long ago, and when I say long ago, I sound like the kids, right? Did they have the same kind of cravings that we do today? Did they have what we're terming food addiction like we have today? Has our food changed? And the answer to that last question is yes, it has. Our food has changed, right? So we're able now to eat food that is now smaller in size, but has a denser composition. What does that mean? That means that before, years ago, when you ate something, right, your body could tell that you were full because, I don't know what, let's pick, a piece of bread. Maybe that's a good one, right? A piece of bread or some other food, and you ate it, and the amount of food that you ate went into your stomach, and the stomach stretched, and it sent a signal to the brain that says, hey, I'm full. Right? Well, now you can eat a smaller amount of food that has the same calories as the food you ate long ago. And so that smaller size food goes into the stomach with a bigger calorie. And the body says, She just gave me, or he just gave me a little nibble. All right. It didn't even stretch the stomach. So no signal goes to the brain that says, hey, I'm full. And so we got to put more stuff in, right, to get the same stretch, to get the same signal. Food is more readily available than it was before, right? You can go down to the store now and buy stuff, like I've said before, that you couldn't years and years ago get during this particular season, right? So we say, hey, let me get, I don't know, pick your thing, right? Let me get a particular fruit. Well, it's not usually here during the season, but they just shipped it in, so I'm going to have some. Marketing. And so we're talking once again about our love-hate relationship with food, right? So we're talking about how did we get here? So food, the marketing. So if you eat this food, you're going to feel better. You're going to look better. Everybody's doing it. You're going to be more attractive, right? So those are all the things that the marketing is sending towards us. So you may not even be thinking about that particular food, but you're driving down the road, you're watching TV, you're on your phone, scrolling, and boom, here it pops up. You said, I would like to be better, look better, think better, feel better. Let me get some of that. Okay. And then the food has been designed. The food has been designed for it to be more palatable, right? The right amount of salt, the right amount of sugar, the right amount of fats, right? So there's science behind all of that, right? So in some lab right now, they're trying to figure out, well, how can we make this food taste so good that people want to have more? That's the whole idea behind the bliss point, if you've heard that term before. The bliss point is that point where the food has the right amount of sugar, right amount of salt, right amount of fats. So when you eat it, you're like, oh, right? Oh, I got to get another one, right? Because that's what we want. That's what they want. That's what, if I'm making a product, hey, let's do that. Let's make it so that people cannot just have one, right? I think there was a commercial for something once where it says you can't just have one. I forgot what commercial was that. Yeah, don't. You may think about it. All right. So let's take a quick break here, and this is a good point, guys. And I'm going to. Do I venture to change my scenes? But I will. If you've not done so, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Take a moment right now. If you have gotten benefit from all the videos that we've done, please go ahead and send this one to someone, to a friend, to a family member. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on many of the social platforms. You'll see those there on the screen, and you can get to us. Remember that we are here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. Exclusive health and wellness talk. Our coaching program is going, so please go ahead, avail yourself. We'd love to partner with you to get you unstuck. If you have family members, once again, friends who need our services, you can go there, DwayneWoodMD.com, DwayneWoodMD.com. And then let's see if I can grab this one real quick. So we just recently launched a very interesting program, a lesson on self-talk. So please make sure that you grab that, and we'd love to partner with you. We'd love for you to go through it. It helps to build your ideas about your words that you're using, right? Be aware of the words that you're using that help to build your mindset, All right, here we are. Okay, so here we're back. And The reason I was cautious is because I didn't want to go ahead and you guys not hear me. But anyway, we did that. Okay. So let's come back now. Let's come back to our thoughts. And this is actually going to be a good place before we talk about what the positive of this discussion is. This is a good place for our thought of the day. All right. So hopefully you are there. And our thought for today has to do with focus. When I was learning to drive, I'm from New York, from Brooklyn. So I came down to Huntsville, Alabama, to college, and I didn't know how to drive because, of course, in New York, we didn't have to drive. You know, we got taxis and buses, and we walked a lot of places. So anyway, so a good friend of mine was teaching me to drive, and he had an old 1974 4-speed Volvo, kind of creamish white, right, cream to white. And I remember him. And by the way, you probably shouldn't learn how to drive on a on a stick shift. But anyway, so he teaching me how to drive, and I remember driving, and I kept looking down. at the road, and so the car would go this way, it would go that way, it'd go this way, it'd go this way. And so he stopped me. He said, "Hey, stop." I said, "What?" He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm driving." He said, No. He said, Don't look at the road, right? I want you to look at where we're heading. I want you to look up there, because the car is going to go wherever you're looking. Tony Robbins says that where the focus is where the energy flows. Where the focus is where the energy flows. What does that mean? That means that sometimes as we are going through our lives, as we're doing various things, we tend to look at the stuff around us, right? The bumps in the road, the times where we may have failed at a particular task in that process, the times when we had to pause and stop and regroup, rather than looking at where we're heading. As you're getting to where you're going, as you're getting to the conclusion, as you're getting to the goal, as you're getting to the end of that project, as you're heading there are going to be times when you may even have to stop and get off the road, right? But you can't allow that to divert you from what you're trying to do. Because the things that are going on right here, the little bumps and lumps and stops and pauses and regrouping and replanning, and that's not the goal. That is the process to get to the goal. But sometimes we get so caught up in looking at the road, if you will, based on my example. If you're looking at the road, that we lose sight of the fact of where we're heading and what our destination is. So your energies, the motivation that you have, right? All of that is going to go to what you're focusing on. So if you're focusing on this problem that's right here, right? That's a lump or bump in the road, then that's where your energies go. And it takes your energy away from where we're heading. So maybe this thing that didn't go the way you expected, find a different way to do it that gets you to the goal. That person that may not have worked out in the process, find a different person that gets you to your goal. Right? That redesign that you've got to do, where you thought, okay, this is the way that I've got to do it. Maybe that's not the way you've got to do it. Find a different way to do it that gets you to the goal. Remember, the goal is where we're heading. All the things that we're doing right here, all those tasks are with the idea to get to the goal. That's what we've got to do. So how do we do that? Right? Make sure that our goals are aligned. Our goals are aligned with our core values. because then we're less likely to get distracted with the things that are surrounding it right now. Review your goals daily. Okay, where am I heading? Is it written down somewhere? Is it on a wall? Right? Is it in my planner? Is it on my computer? I'm looking at my screen right here, right? Is it on my computer? Right? Is it listed somewhere on a monitor? Right? I'm looking at a monitor behind this camera right now. Use a monitor to track, a planner, to track the progress. Give yourself attaboys, attagirls. Celebrate when you do have something that goes well, that's getting you to your goal. Right? Don't just wait until we get there to celebrate. Right? When you're working, when you're doing something that is working, yes, celebrate that. Get the important things out of the way. Sometimes we have the tendency, right, to major in the minors. I remember when I was thinking of starting this channel, right, this YouTube channel. And I spent time, buying mics and stuff that you guys don't see right now on the board and the lights and so forth. Okay. And a very good guy said to me, just turn the camera on. Plan, right? Plan and turn the camera on. Forget all the other stuff. That's going to come. And he was right. So goals. So where your focus goes is where your energy flows. So my encouragement to you today is don't focus on the minutia. Don't focus on the things that are going wrong. Don't focus on the lumps, the bumps, the pauses, the redesigns. Focus on where you're heading. Focus on your goals. Awesome. Thank you. That's our thought for today. All right. So let's jump back to our discussion. So we're talking about food, right? Talking about food. So how do we stop those cravings? Because that dopamine is pretty big. Now, here I've got to say, right, that some of this will sound very simple. And some of you will think that you don't have willpower. But I'd like to convince you, or I'd like to say to you, or offer to you, that it's not a problem of willpower. Have you ever heard of decision fatigue? Decision fatigue. Decision fatigue goes like this, and this is a simplified version, right? It says that if I have to make repeated decisions, I get tired. And at some point, I don't want to make any more decisions, and I go to the simplest solution. It may not be the right solution, but the simplest solution. Let me give you an example. You've decided, or I've decided, let's take my Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I decided, okay, I'm not eating any Ben & Jerry ice cream. And I get up in the morning, and I'm going out the door, and you are standing there with a platter with Ben & Jerry's ice cream on it. I may walk by you because I've already decided that I'm not going to have any. And on the way to work, there's a traffic jam and I've got to go a different way. And I get to work late and I walk in and the boss says, hey, that report I need right now. I got to go get that report, doctor it up a little bit, get it to my boss. And throughout the day, I'm going through one thing after another, after another, after another. And I'm just exhausted at the end of the day. When I'm walking back in the door, if you're standing there with the ice cream, guess what? Yeah, we're having some. Because I don't want to make any more decisions. Right? My brain says that's it. I'm not making it. I'm not making any more decisions. Let's just get the ice cream and let's go. Not to mention the memory of the ice cream. And what I think the ice cream is going to do. What it's going to make me feel like. Right? I'm anticipating. So that dopamine is up. Because I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I don't want to make any more decisions. And I want to feel good. So two things that we've got to fight. We've got to fight the cravings. Well, more than two. Let me give you a list. So one thing first is we got to fight the cravings. How do we fight the cravings? We fight the cravings by making sure that we are dealing with our hunger, that we're having adequate, balanced meals. Because remember, if you're hungry, you're less likely to control what you eat. All right. So having an adequate, balanced meal, making sure that we're not hungry. We may need to change the scenery. Often our cravings occur, they don't occur all day, right? It's not like every day, every moment it's happening. It's a particular setting when I'm with a group of, with a particular group. Late at night, when everybody else is sleeping, while I'm watching TV, while I'm playing a game. So you may need to change what you do, changing the scenery. Call your friends and say to them, hey, you know, I'm working on my relationship with food. I'd like you to help me. Can we not go to that restaurant? Can we not go to that place? Would you go with me to this other place? Right? So create a different location. Get enough sleep. Where did we say the dopamine comes from? The adrenals. What else do the adrenals produce? Cortisol, right? So adrenal, the dopamine and cortisol, epinephrine, all of those guys are adrenal hormones. And so if we're not well rested, then those hormones can be higher, right? And cortisol decreases dopamine. Insulin actually, cortisol and insulin decrease dopamine. Drink plenty of water. Sometimes we are not hungry, but we're dehydrated. And if we get adequate hydration, that can help with cravings, help with hunger or the feelings of hunger. Reduce your stress, right? We've talked about sleeping well, but reduce your stress. Learn how to do better stress management. Better stress management. Build a community. Work on your community. So many things. And these last, right? So sleep, stress, and community. Those come into play in so many different areas. Having a community around you, right, decreases loneliness, isolation, gives you motivation, right? Takes up your time, right? So that you're not at the house by yourself eating Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And then sometimes you may need to do a cleanse. What does that mean? Our palates, our tongue, is very instrumental in our idea of taste, right? And people say, oh, that doesn't taste good to me. Well, one way to basically cleanse the tongue is to go on a fast. Within 24 hours or so, without eating. And so within that time, the tongue actually begins to almost cleanse. And so when you're eating things, right, the things that you now eat can have a different sensation, different flavor to it. It's amazing. Go on a water cleanse where you're just drinking water. Same idea. And ultimately, what I think will help a lot is realizing when, and this can't be done at the time, right? So when you're in the middle of a craving, it's not going to be right. But sitting down and really looking to see what are the things that really cause me stress? What are the things that cause me to eat? What are the areas of my life that are not going well? So I'm using food as a way to improve my mood, my attitude, my behavior. So there is a love-hate relationship with food. Food is not all bad, but we've got to be able to manage it, and it can be managed. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, guys, I'm glad that you're here. So glad that you took time to join us. Remember to join us every Monday at 7 o'clock here on our channel. If you know of someone who needs, if you've had benefit from the videos that we've done, please go ahead and make sure that you like this video. Send a message to a friend, a family member, to let them know they should watch this video. Go ahead and subscribe if you've not already done so. Please go to our website, DwayneWoodMD.com, and sign up there for a consultation. We'd love to begin working with you to help you get unstuck. And then we launched last week this self-talk lesson to help you begin working on that. That's a wonderful free resource that's out there on our website. Go ahead and avail yourself of that. We would love for you to go through that and begin building and begin learning how to improve your mindset. Okay. Well, thank you guys once again for being here. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. Here on this channel, we help to educate, empower, and encourage you to take charge of your health and your life and go to the next level. Get that life that you have always wanted. Have a great night. We will see you at the next video. Let's get some video, get some music, and get on out of here.